Chapter 9, Wolves of Willoughby Chase. Sylvia's ill, Bonnie muttered to Simon as soon as they were outside the gate. She can hardly walk. I think we shall have to carry her. No, she can go in the cart, Simon whispered back, and then Bonnie saw that he had with him a beautiful little cart drawn by a donkey. Her eyes lit up with delight. Why, it's the very thing. Isn't it the one from Willoughby that we used for picnics? Hush. Yes, whispered Simon. Let's get away quick and then I'll explain. Between them, they lifted the trembling, shivering Sylvia into the cart. She gave a little protesting moan as she came into contact with something soft that seemed alive. You know what that is. What is it? Breathed Bonnie. The geese. They won't hurt her. There are quilts and mattresses underneath. Swiftly and skillfully, Simon disposed Sylvia in the cart on a warm mattress covered with several quilts. 30 sleeping, grumbling geese were pushed unceremoniously to one side, and then, when Sylvia was settled, allowed to perch all over and around her until only her face was showing. There, that'll keep her famously warm. And in fact, the warmth of the mattress and quilts and the soft, feathery bodies on top was such that in 2 minutes Sylvia was in a deep sleep and never even felt the cart begin to move. Will you ride too, Miss Bonnie? No. I'll walk at the head with you, Simon. Let's be off then. They hastened away. Simon had tied rags around the wheels. That was to make it so nobody could hear the wheels on the road as they snuck away. And they went silently over the cobbled road. Remember, we studied cobbled roads earlier this year. The only sound was the tippity-tap of the donkey's feet. When they had turned several corners and put several streets between them and Mrs. Brisket's school, both Simon and Bonnie breathed more freely. No one will remark us now, said Bonnie as they passed into a wide, naphtha-lighted street into the middle of the town, where, although it was nearly midnight, trams still clanged up and down, and pit and factory workers trudged to and fro in their clogs. Certainly no one would take you for Miss Bonnie Green, said Simon, chuckling. You make a proper boy in those things, haircut and all. Here, I brought these for you. He turned, sank an arm into the cart, and rummaged among the geese, and brought out 2 sheep's wool-lined caps, one of which he carefully placed over Sylvia's sleeping head. The other he gave to Bonnie, who gratefully pulled it on, for the snow was falling thick and fast. Pattern? Oh, did she make the clothes? Yes, she did. When she heard I was going to help you and James found the donkey and cart and Miss Leichhardt was going to have sold, but James told her they belonged to Parson, which wasn't true, and so James hid them away. I reckoned it would be just the thing for our journey, and Miss Pattern gave me a saucepan and a fry pan and some cups and plates and a great pie. They're all in the back under the seat. We'll have a bite to eat presently. I dare say you're famished, Miss Bonnie, but not till we're out of the town. Where is Pattern? Asked Bonnie. She's gone back to live with her mother at the lodge. She sent her dear love, but didn't dare ask you to call in, for Miss Leichhardt passes there every day, and there's only the one room, you know. If there's a search for you, they'd be bound to go there. It's Miss Pattern. It's best. The Miss Pattern should not have seen you. And is James still at the house? Yes. He gave me the guineas to put in your pockets out of his wages. And gracious knows they're little enough now. I've spent mine already, Simon, confessed Bonnie, and told what she had done. Simon shook his head at her, but all he said was, 'Twas like you, Bonnie. Simon grinned but answered indirectly. Have you got that coal cellar key with you? Here's a good place to get rid of it. Simon, it's ridiculous to go on calling me Miss. Just call me plain Bonnie. Simon grinned again. Where's the key? They were crossing the bridge over the wide river with its busy traffic of coal barges and wool wherries. When Bonnie produced the key and the 2 overalls, he made them into a bundle with a bit of string, weighted it with a cobble, and threw the whole thing into the river. Then they went on with lighter hearts. The town presently gave way to country. Not much could be seen in the dark, but Bonnie caught dim glimpses of snow-covered slag heaps with here and there a great pit wheel or chimney. Then they passed fields enclosed in dry stone walls. After a while, they were climbing up a long, slow ascent, the beginning of the Wolds. Remember we talked about the Wolds at the beginning of this year as one of the land features of England. You'd best have a bit of sleep now, Simon suggested to Bonnie after a couple of hours had passed. We're safe away until 'twill be morning by and by. What about the wolves, though? Bonnie said. Shan't we be in danger from them? I'd better help you keep a lookout. Have you brought a gun? Aye, I've my bow, and James gave me your fowling piece. It's in the cart, but I doubt we'll not be troubled. By wolves. It's turn March now, and with spring coming, they'll be moving farther north. We're not likely to see any of them once we're over Great Windside. What shall we do about Sylvia, Simon? She ought to stop somewhere till she's well enough for the journey. I've been thinking about that, and I know the very place. We'll reach at about 6 in the morning. You get in the cart and have a nap now, Miss Bonnie. All right, I will, said Bonnie, who was beginning to be very sleepy. If you're sure the donkey can stand the load. She patted the donkey's nose. Caroline's pulled heavier loads than that, said Simon. So the cart was halted, and Bonnie, carefully so as not to wake Sylvia, scrambled in and made a nest for herself among the feather quilts in the warm, drowsy geese. Soon she too was asleep. When Bonnie woke, she lay wondering for a moment where she was. There was no clanging bell, no complaining voices, and instead of shivering under her one thin blanket, she was deliciously comfortable and warm. A cool breeze blew over her face. The cart jolted, and then she remembered what had been happening, and she said softly, Simon. His voice came from somewhere in front. Yes? Stop the cart, I want to get out. Not worth it. We're nearly there. Bonnie wriggled in a sitting position and looked about her. The sky was still mostly dark, but daylight was slowly growing in the east. Thin fronds of green and yellow lemon were beginning to uncurl among masses of inky cloud. When Bonnie looked back, she could see that they had come over a great ridge of hills whose tops were still lost in the blackness of the sky to the north. Ahead of them was a little dale, and loops of the white road were visible leading down to it over rolling folds of moor. A tremendous hush lay over the whole countryside. Even the birds were not awake yet. That's where we'll have our breakfast, Simon pointed ahead. That's Herondale. We're way off the main road now. No one's likely to come looking for us here. He began to whistle a soft tune as he walked, and Bonnie, curling up even more snugly, watched in great contentment at the lemon-yellow sky as it changed to orange and then to red, and presently the sun burst up in a blaze of gold. Simon, what is it? There's no snow here. Often it's like that, he said, nodding. We've left snow to other side of Windside down in Herondale. It'll be warm. Presently they came to the last steep descent in the valley, and Simon then allowed Bonnie to get out of the cart while he adjusted the drag on the wheels to stop it running downhill too fast. All this time Sylvia slept. She stirred a little as they reached the foot of the hill and walked through a fringe of rowan trees in a tiny village consisting of 3 or 4 cottages round a green with a couple of outlying farms. "We'll go to the forge," said Simon, and led the donkey across the green to a low building under a great walnut tree. Bonnie fell back and walked beside the cart, smiling at Sylvia's puzzled, sleepy face. The geese were beginning to stir and stretch their long necks, and at first sight of them, Sylvia looked slightly alarmed. But when she saw Bonnie, she smiled too and shut her eyes again. I'm going to show you a picture, and we're going to stop there for today, but things sound kind of perfect. I wonder if all their troubles are over. I wonder if this is just the happy ending. What do you think? Do you think things could ever go wrong again, or is this just safety? Are they just safe as can be? No more bad people? I don't know, I have a sneaky feeling we're not that close to the end yet.